Okay, today what we want to do is we want to talk about how to find the volume of a cylinder. Now remember, in our last video we found out how to find the volume of a cube and a rectangular prism. And remember, a cube is a three-dimensional figure, okay, whose sides are made up of squares, all right, which means they're all the same size, all right? And a rectangular prism is a three-dimensional figure whose sides are all rectangles, all right? And again, thus rectangular prism. Now, today we want to talk about a, cylinder. And a cylinder is a three-dimensional figure, but its base is a circle. If you would, it would be a figure like this right here, okay? And again, it's three-dimensional. It has length, width, and height, okay? And its base is a circle, all right? By the way, when I wanted this one, I found the volume of a cube was e to the third power, because you basically found the area of the bottom, if you remember, which was a square, which was side to the second power, and then you multiply by the height, which was the same thing. So side squared times side is side to the third power. And they call it edge instead of side, but it's basically the same thing. But the thing is, we found out how much it took to fill the bottom, and we multiplied times how tall. The same thing for a rectangular prism, okay, we used length times width times height. But when we do length times width, what we're really doing is we're finding the area of the bottom. Because isn't area of a rectangle length times width? And then after you find out how much it takes to fill the bottom, you multiply times how much it takes to go up. So what that means in a circular cylinder is find the area of the bottom, which means you find the area of a circle. And what's the area of a circle? Pi r squared. Pi r not round, pi r squared. So again, the area of the bottom would be pi times radius squared, but then you got to go all the way up with it, so it's times height. So the volume of a cylinder is equal to pi times the radius squared times the height. And again, it's kind of neat, or it's kind of good to know where the formula came from. But the bottom line is, as long as you know what the formula is, you just replace the variable with its value, use the order of operations, and work it out. So, let's say I had this cylinder here. And let's say I told you that the radius was 4 inches. So now I would use the formula. Always start by writing the formula. Volume of a cylinder equals pi times the radius squared times the height. Replace pi with 3 14/100. Replace the radius with 4 inches and square it. And then I need to know the height. Let's say that that's 8 inches. All right, and then I could work it out. By the way, order of operation, do exponents first. 4 squared would be 16, and that would be inches squared times 8 inches. By the way, order of operations, you would work left to right, but the commutative and associative property says you can multiply any way you want. If you want to start with 16 times 8 first, you could do that. That's 128. And then multiply 128 times 14/100. By the way, for you, none of this is important, because for you, I'm letting you use your calculator to do the calculation. So you don't even need to do the multiplication like I'm doing right now, okay? You just need to use your calculator to find the answer. But since I don't have a calculator here, I have to do the calculation. 2 places behind the decimal in the problem, 2 places behind the decimal answer, and your answer is 401 and 92/100, but not inches squared, okay? It's inches to the third power, or cubic inches. For those of you who don't know how to get the exponent on the inches, you would write it 401 and 92/100 CUIN. Abbreviate Q, cubic in front. And don't put INCU. If you want inches cubed, you have to use the cube sign, the third power sign. You don't write it out, but you can do CUIN. So again, you find the area of the bottom and multiply it times the height. All right, so what if I was to give you another one, just to make sure you got how this works? What if I was to give you another one, and this time I told you the diameter was 4 inches? Again, I still use the formula, volume of a cylinder is equal to pi times the radius squared times the height. Pi is still 3 14/100, but the diameter is 4, so to find the radius, you only want half of that. And what's half of 4? 2. So this is actually 2 inches squared. And the height, let's say this one is 8, again, inches. All right, so now I have 3 14/100 times order of operation, do exponents first. That's 4 inches squared times 8 inches. Again, you could do 4 times 8 is 32, and do 3 14/100 times 32. And again, with your calculator, it really doesn't matter what order you do it in, because your calculator can do it in any order really very fast. But again, since I don't have a calculator, I have to do it this way. 2 places behind the decimal problem, 2 places behind the decimal in the answer. And that's your answer, 148/100, but not inches squared, inches cubed, or 148/100 cubic inches. So basically, to find the volume of any, excuse me, cylinder or prism or cube, you find the area of the bottom, how much it takes to fill in the bottom, and multiply it times going how high you go. All right. And again, for a cylinder that has a circular bottom, the area of the cylinder's bottom is pi times the radius squared, and then you multiply it times the height of the cylinder. So that should be pretty easy if you know 3 things. If you know the formula, if you know which variables stand for, and if you know the algebraic order of operation. By the way, it makes it even easier if you have a calculator, because I'm letting it do the work for you. But that's what your next homework assignment will be on, finding the volume of a cylinder.